So Kyla is one of my speed racers, and we are kind of putting you on the hot seat because I'm going to ask you to be kind of transparent on some of the stuff that was going on for you in terms of the visibility. But first, will you do me a favor and tell everybody a little bit more about your business?
Sure. So what I do now is I work with corporations and helping them with their internal pipeline. So helping them keep their top talent and then help that top talent get to the next level. So I do a lot of work with that mid-level range, the managers, senior managers type thing.
So that's a really important thing because one of the biggest problems right now that companies are having, and those of you who are coaches and consultants and trainers, this is going to resonate with you, is there's a real gap in leadership as to what's going on for companies right now. I shared with you earlier that only 5% of people inside of companies are really maximized to reach their potential. But the other part of it is they don't necessarily have the people who are ready to step in to leadership positions. And as you all know, the way that people typically get a leadership position is they were really good at doing their job, and they are the person who has the most years doing it, so therefore it must be their turn to get that promotion. And yet, none of the skills have been cultivated. And nowadays, managers are stepping into roles that are very challenging.
Yep, and a lot of overwhelm, a lot of burnout, a lot of not very effective managing because of it.
Yeah. So when we met, you were working mostly with small business owners.
Yes, small business owners and individuals. When we met, I actually was not in the corporate realm at all. I was working with people on a much smaller scale.
Yeah. So, all right. So this is the mess slides. Can you guys put my slides up for me? Because it's tiny up here, so I can't see. There we go. All right. So we're going to start out with a mess. Sorry, hon. All right. So one of the things that was going on, I'll let you talk to this, was on the visibility piece, the I don't know who to reach out to, what to say.
Yes. So I was probably what you could call literally paralyzed with I don't know what to do. So the slide where you had all of those different things up, that's what I felt like I was looking at every day. Like, what do I focus on? I don't know how to keep things going. I don't know how to go out and get clients. I don't know how to talk to them. I don't know what to tell them. The biggest thing was selling myself. I mean, because before I was in corporate and it wasn't the same thing at all as going out and having to sell your services yourself to a company.
Yeah, it is very different. I think, because I was a corporate escapee, as you all know, Kyla's a corporate escapee. A lot of you in here are corporate escapees or wannabe. You know, it is something that is hard to understand how to go and sell yourself, right? And then we make it all about us, which we'll get into later, right? All right, so one of the other big things was not focusing on the things that lead to visibility, but all the stuff I kind of sucked away from that slide.
Yes, I was working 12-hour days. I was working weekends. I was so busy doing things that were not keeping my business in business. It was by the time I found you, I was actually in quite a desperate state. So even like going further into the fact that really everything became about, I am not going to fail at this. My business is not going to go under. This is my impact. This is my purpose, and I am not going to let this fail. And I was in a space where I literally felt like I didn't know what to do, but there was nothing that was going to stop me from doing what I had to do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, which I know on the home front, we won't get into it, but I know on the home front, it was causing a tremendous amount of stress for you.
Yes. So, geez. Well, all right. So just flat transparency here. By the time I found Angelique, I was in tremendous debt, both for the not focusing on sales, not focusing on the things that I needed to do to bring money into my business, but also because I am a huge proponent of investing in your development. And so I did take, I had taken other programs too, but those programs were, there was great people in the programs, I didn't get sales out of it. So the ROI there was nothing. So by the time I got to you, and I don't even know if you know this, but by the time I got to you, I actually took money out of my 401k because there wasn't even debt that I could get to invest.
I didn't know that.
No, yeah.
People always lay these things on me.
Yeah.
Right.
So, you know,
right. Go ahead.
I want to say too, because I think this is really important. I was in a space where my cash flow, and that's where the big part with my, you know, where my husband and I were having a hard time, is because my cash flow, I didn't know from one month to the next if I was going to be able to pay the bills. So I was doing my web pay and not knowing if I was even going to have the money in my account to pay those bills. And it was, so I'm a little shaky right now because this is really transparent to a lot of people. But yeah, so that's where I was when I found you.
So the cool thing is, like, right away, though, I will say about Kyla, and this is hard, is that you were willing to stop doing a lot of the stuff that we said, don't worry about that right now, do this other stuff. And that's really, I know you can't really see it up here, but in terms of you focusing on the stuff that matters, but you did that with gusto. Like, you were like, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to focus on getting high quality visibility and going directly to them.
Yes.
Now, you had a great experience. I do want you to share this because we all make it about ourselves at some point. Like, if we don't hear back, it's about us. And you had a great experience where you followed up with somebody like a gazillion times, and then they finally were like, I'm so glad. Well, you tell them.
Actually, I haven't mentioned this, but I've actually had this happen a lot of times. Because of Angelique, I keep hounding. What I thought before, like, oh, I cannot possibly follow up again. They're going to punch me in the face if they ever see me. What I did is I just kept following up. So I was, you know, I'd leave voicemails and emails and all kinds of different things that we've talked about as far as strategy. And I will tell you, I can't tell you how many times I've heard from people, thank you so much for calling. I've had you on my to-do list forever and I just haven't gotten to it. I really appreciate you being so persistent. And it's happened so many times. And I actually had a bad experience because of it, because I didn't follow up with somebody, followed up a year later, and
a year later.
A year later, yes, a full year later. Actually, I think it was a little bit more than that. And and she was really, really gracious. She was like, you know what, I'm no longer in that role. I just want to tell you I was really, really excited about your services. I was really disappointed you didn't call me back. Yeah, this is a Fortune 100 company. So, yeah.
I'm glad you shared that and that you were willing to share it, because it's a mistake that a lot of business owners make. They're like, well, you know, they have my information. I don't want to be too pushy. They'll call me. And when you're on the other side of it, you know, I hired probably 300, I lost count, around 350 of how many outside experts and vendors and suppliers that I hired. And one of the kind of, you know, I was one of those decision makers too that didn't do a ton of due diligence or, you know, interview 10 different people before making a decision. But one of kind of like my litmus tests was, are they going to make like any discretionary effort to get in touch with me? Because if they're not going to like at least call me a few times to like try to like follow back up with me, it's just sending me a signal that they don't really, really want my business. And if they don't really, really want my business and they're not even willing to work to get this $50,000 check or $500,000 check, then once I give them that money, am I ever going to hear from them, right? Wait till I show you the stat on the gap between what experts think that they're providing in terms of value to their customers and what the customer thinks. It's going to blow your minds. But, you know, they think that they're not going to, you know, if you're not calling them, they're like, well, you must not want my business. And so she noticed that woman didn't call Kyla and say, I'm really disappointed. Why haven't I heard from you? She just was like, all right, well, moving on to the next thing. She didn't call Kyla.
And the only reason she talked to me is because she's a huge proponent of women in small businesses. And she's like, let me just close my door for a minute. And I was like, uh-oh.
Uh-oh. That's not good.
Yeah.
Ruh-roh. Yeah. That's what I would have been like, ruh-roh. All right, so let's get to the good stuff, because the truth is you've completely turned this around, and you don't wait a year before following out with people. So Tell them the good stuff.
Okay. So I actually am much more confident in my sales ability now, and I'm much more competent, not just confident, but competent. I feel like so many different strategies that we've talked about in the warm calls are really big for me, and something that's really funny too is even the wide net. And I can't remember where in the program you talked about
the net,
where you taught that, but I remember thinking to myself, I am a wonderful salesperson because my net was over the little fishbowl, and I was getting big clients because of the strategies that Angelique and Phil were teaching me. So the idea that I can cast that net wider, and I've got my team working on that right now, is finding those speaking opportunities and setting up the ERTs and that kind of thing. But my team, I know. When Angelique,
like a proud mama bear.
It's so funny. And she really is proud of me for doing it, because when Angelique and Phil brought up the idea of me hiring employees, my stomach like hit the floor. Like, what? This is just me and my business. That's not where I want to go. That's like way more than what I want to do. And it has made a huge difference. And so the sales that I've been able to make from just the different strategies that you've talked about here tonight, and the warm calls and the following up, I have had two $30,000 engagements and a $40,000 engagement with global corporate companies who, these are really small programs. I mean, they're long programs, but they're really small, like 10 people in these programs. And these companies are planning on utilizing me in a much broader capacity. So, I've got the wide net, and I've got this piece here where I've got the more business in these global companies that feels pretty good.
So I do want to share with them. I want to give an example, because this came up in some of the questions that came in. So I won't say who, but for one of those global companies that you're talking about, they're starting out with like a 10-person coaching program. But the way that that's going to scale up is they have 35?
Locations?
Yeah.
Geez, I don't even remember anymore, because I've got one with 29, one with, I think, 35.
35, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I carry all this trivia in my head. So
I know, I'm like,
I know,
better than I do.
It's 35. It's 35.
Okay.
So you know me and my numbers, right?
I know.
So one of the companies has 35 locations, and they're looking at now taking that same coaching program and having Kyla roll it out to being that same coaching program and being in 35 different offices across the country.
Yeah.
So you guys can do the math on what that looks like. And Kyla doesn't have to deliver it all over herself.
No,
there are
I don't.
amazing coaches out there who can be her bench in those different regions and go deliver those coaching programs, which is really cool. So
So I do the training, and I do the consulting with management about the different themes I'm seeing come up, and the cultural problems that I'm seeing that we can address on a bigger scale and that kind of thing. But I do have coaches that do the coaching component. So
she's not stuck in a job. She hasn't created a job
awesome
for herself. She has the coaches doing that. She's doing the high level strategic piece, and then the one-on-one coaching calls. She has coaches who work for her. You might be getting some business cards after this from some coaches.
That would be fantastic.
Awesome. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Good job. You're amazing.